So every fall, I watch so many people pull this up by the roots, thinking that it's ragweed, or even worse, that it's just some ridiculous weed in their yard. But what if I told you that this overlooked wildflower was one of the most powerful herbs you could be harvesting right now? So this, my friends, is goldenrod, and it has completely kind of shifted how I view the land around me, and I want to share with you why. So goldenrod was one of the first herbs that I foraged here locally. I'm in Arkansas, and the great thing is you can forage it in so many different areas. It is a native wildflower with some incredible medicinal properties, and it's really fun, all the different versatile uses of it. And what's also just so interesting to me is that so many people think that this is just a weed. I mean, they have no idea all of the properties and the uses for this. And so you might have seen this in your own backyard. Maybe you found it in the ditch in front of your house. Like, I'm not sure where you've seen this fun little spiky thing, but I want to share with you guys today why it is such a powerhouse. And if you see it in your yard, do not pull it. Do not overlook this. It is not just a annoying little weed. It has so many different properties. So let's dive into those. I first started gardening with vegetables. I grew vegetables, berries. It was really later in my gardening endeavors that I moved into herbs and seeking out herbalism. But I did not realize that goldenrod was what it was. In fact, for many years, I'm ashamed to say this, but I thought it was a weed. I thought it was ragweed, and I thought it was the culprit behind a lot of the seasonal allergies I was facing, because I would find this flower out in my yard everywhere. And it was just one of those things that I had chalked up to, okay, we need to steer clear of this ragweed that's causing a lot of these seasonal allergies. But I later realized that it was certainly not the enemy. In fact, it was an ally I could rely on a lot, especially this time of year. One of my favorite things about goldenrod is it is that first signifying shift of the seasons, right? As soon as the temperatures start dipping, as soon as we start entering into September, you'll start to notice that the goldenrods bloom, which is just a really cool way for nature to kind of show up, right? We see this in different seasons too. Maybe it's plantain in the spring, maybe it's goldenrod in the fall, but those to me are just really cool cues from nature that they're providing the things that you are probably going to need as we're moving into the different seasons. And I don't know, I just think that, stuff like that's really special. Okay, so this goldenrod, right, grows on these big, they're tall. Taller than I am, okay? And you'll see that there's green foliage around it, but then you have these bright yellow, showy clusters. That is how you know it is goldenrod. Ragweed, on the other hand, which is what this is mistaken for oftentimes, is feathery and green, but it's far less showy. You're not going to have these big, massive clusters. I'll pop a photo here on the screen of what ragweed looks like. So you can kind of see here the difference in the two of them, and you can also see how they could easily be mistaken, but once you kind of know the difference, then it's really easy to identify goldenrod versus ragweed. So when you are wanting to harvest goldenrod, you want it to where there's good clusters. So we have a lot of it in the yard right now that hasn't actually opened up and bloomed yet. And so once it opens up like this, you can kind of see here, you can tell. So there's that sweet spot, right? I want to catch it in this stage, but I don't want it to have gone to seed yet. And so just when you see it nice and full, not all of them are going to be completely full out, but you want a decent amount that you can do something with. You want to make sure you're catching it before it turns to seed, just to capture all of those medicinal properties. So that's kind of when you know it's ready to harvest. But if you're not seeing those bright, vibrant clusters, then you know it's just probably not ready quite yet. So, of course, just make sure you're using clean snip at the base. I'm actually going to be freeze drying a lot of this. You could group them in bundles like this and hang upside down to dry. Always tell people when you do this, it's important to make sure that they're not close to seeding, because what's going to happen, this is honestly, with my cut flowers, I deal with this a lot. They're going to drop seed everywhere. But if you hang them in clusters like this to dry, that's great. Just keep them out of direct sunlight. You want to maintain all of the medicinal properties as best to your ability. So it's important to just hang them maybe in a pantry or a closet. Just make sure you're avoiding any sort of direct sunlight, because that is going to strip some of the nutrients and the properties out of your herb itself. So when it comes to the uses of this fantastic roadside foraged herb, I think of three things. And these are primarily the three ways I am preserving and turning this, what many think, weed into all of its medicinal properties. So the first one is a tea, then there's tinctures, and there's the topical use. So let's dive into each of those real quick. You can make a goldenrod tea, which is fantastic for your allergies. So if you're dealing with any sort of seasonal allergies, even if you're dealing with like a cold or a flu, goldenrod is so great for that. You can steep the flowers fresh, or you can dry them. And so it's always, like I mentioned kind of at the beginning of this, is so cool to me, right, is when the seasons shift and we're going to deal with more things like your seasonal allergies, needing a bit more immune support, you're going to notice that nature is going to naturally give us some of those things to combat against that if we have the right eye and we know how to forage and look for them. Now, I'm not a professional forager, you guys. There are only a few things I know how to forage in my area, but when I kind of just take time to learn, it's just always really, really neat and cool. So primarily the number one way my family is consuming goldenrod is in a tea form to support seasonal allergy. It actually tastes really good. We sweeten it with some honey, which we know has a lot of medicinal benefits as well. And it's just a pretty humble, simple tea, but it is a go-to this time of year. Another thing you could do is make a goldenrod tincture, and that is where you will steep the flowers in alcohol typically. So there's an alcohol based tincture or a glycerite based tincture, and it is just going to have, it's going to be stronger, it's going to have more potency, and it's also going to last longer. It's for more of a long-term use. That's a great way to use it. You can also make a salve out of it for topical use. And it's really good for any sort of skin healing and if you're dealing with inflammation. And so it's a very easy, great for children and things like that, that we just love having it on hand. I might pair it with some comfrey. I might pair it with some calendula, right? I might just not use it as just only goldenrod, but when you pack it with other powerhouses, it can really be very, very effective for any sort of skin issue that you're dealing with. So I really just want to nerd out a little bit more on all of the medicinal properties that goldenrod has, because it is so fascinating to me that many of us pull this without really knowing how fantastic it is for our respiratory systems, for our digestive systems, for immune support, for anti-inflammatory properties. There's so many different things. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to load this up into the freeze dryer, and we're going to talk about some of those incredible medicinal properties, because I really want you guys to try this and not be intimidated by it. Maybe it's growing, wild and native where you are. I want you to be able to harvest this and immediately know the medicinal properties and the ways you can do it. And that's the great thing about herbalism, is one herb will have lots of herbal actions. And what that means is that one herb doesn't do one singular thing. Oftentimes, many times, one herb is going to have a lot of herbal actions, and it's going to do a lot of different things, which is just so incredible to me. We've even infused goldenrod and honey for all the medicinal properties, much like you would like elderflower or something of that nature. We've done that with this too. And so you guys, just the sky's the limits on what you can use this for. So let's go get this packed into the freeze dryer, and let's talk a little bit more about some of those medicinal properties and uses for this backyard underrated wildflower that so many of us think is just a common weed. All right, so let's dive into the nitty gritty, right? This overlooked backyard plant packs so many medicinal properties. The first one that we kind of already touched on, right, is that it offers a lot of respiratory and allergy support because it's going to act as a natural antihistamine and a decongestant. A lot like mullein too, it helps you get it all out. Goldenrod is known to just be really effective for that, which is why it's great for seasonal allergies and sinus infections, because it's going to help clear the mucus and open up the airways. Now, the great thing too about all herbs, and I touched on this a little bit before too, is that one herb has many herbal actions, and goldenrod is a great representation of that too. So it's also incredible for your kidney and your urinary health. Traditionally, it was used a lot to help with kidney stones, and if you had any sort of urinary tract infection, because it has a mild diuretic properties, it can help just kind of flush all that out, right? It's flushing out the toxins, it's flushing out the kidney stones, and it's going to help with any sort of inflammation. Another great herbal action of this herb is it is fantastic for your digestive system. So if you're dealing with any sort of cramping or bloating, or maybe you're sick to your stomach because you ate too much dinner, make you up a goldenrod tea. It's really going to help with that a lot. It has fantastic anti-inflammatory and pain relief properties that can help reduce your joint pain. Maybe if you have some arthritis, if you have any sort of sore muscles, this is when you would typically put it into an oil or a salve, right? So that you could easily apply it. And it is so great for the skin and the wound care as far as healing scrapes, minor wounds, eczema, scratches. It's an astringent quality, right? So it's going to help tighten the muscles or tighten the tissues and really reduce the swelling, which is why when you compare it with other things like comfrey that are known for those properties as well, you just like kind of have a one-stop shop. But it's also incredible for your immune support because it's high in antioxidants. So it's really going to strengthen your body if you're dealing with a cold, a flu, or maybe you're just getting over a sickness. And it's really great for that post, crud recovery because it is going to support your lymphatic system so well. And so whether I am, harvesting goldenrod by myself or I'm outside harvesting it with my kids, every year I am just in awe that nature provides, right? When we're shifting into seasons and our body needs a little extra support, it's just so fascinating to me to be able to walk outside and know that nature does what nature needs to do. And I encourage you guys in that. I don't think you have to start with every single herb or learn everything about herbalism to start supporting yourself and your family holistically. Just find 5 herbs. What are your 5 common ailments or symptoms that you deal with? And then find 5 herbs that can combat against those. And the best thing is, if you can forage them in your backyard, even better. And so this is one of those I'm usually foraging with my kiddos, and it's just a great opportunity to have that conversation about if we are willing to just take time out of our day, look around and see what nature offers, we'll probably always be pleasantly surprised that she'll provide every single time. And so I hope this really just showed you how many different uses goldenrod has so that it's not overlooked in your backyard anymore. Go harvest it, go hang it up to dry. Try to make a tea, try to make a tincture, a salve, because there's so many different ways it can support your health and your body with all the different herbal actions that I think it's one of those herbs you're probably not going to overlook any longer. So once I started diving in and learning more about herbalism, specifically herbs that I could forage in my backyard, right? Like not everything you have to grow. Some things are just native to our environments. And I feel like those are the ones that we should probably start with, right? And lean into because they're so readily available for us. And they're great for our climates, our atmospheres, our zones, and things like that, right? And so I used to look at this and think that it was just, like I said, a weed that caused a lot of allergies, or even a pretty weed I would look at and be like, oh, that's so cute. But now that I know a little bit more and I've deepened my knowledge in herbalism and medicinal remedies and holistic remedies, I've realized that these things that I once thought were just roadside weeds now hold a lot of value, right? It's medicine that is just growing native in my backyard instead of running to a grocery store and buying an over-counter pharmaceutical to combat against some sort of seasonal allergy. I can just run outside, harvest some of this, and steep a tea. In fact, I've got a little home right now dealing with a lot of allergy and congestions, and so we are taking a lot of raw honey. We are doing our elderberry syrup shots. We are making a lot of goldenrod tea just to support the immune system. And so it's really, really cool when you can kind of look out in your backyard and see what it has to offer you. What medicinal properties are there? Now, I've been gardening for quite some time now, and so this is something over the last few years I've put more and more emphasis into, is growing a medicinal garden and then also growing culinary herbs. There are so many medicinal properties to culinary herbs that if you're wanting to kind of dip your toes in, but maybe the medicinal side of it seems a little overwhelming, you could start with rosemary, thyme, sage, ginger, turmeric, right? And you can use these medicinal herbs in a culinary way and still get all the benefits while you're continuing to kind of deepen your knowledge. And I would say that was a huge area that I kind of started in. I love cooking from scratch. I love farm to table meals. And so I started taking these culinary herbs to learn about more of their medicinal properties and ways that I could cook them and use them in the kitchen. And so that might be a really good point of entry too. But if you see this growing in your backyard, I just want to encourage you, harvest it, dry it, learn a little bit more about it. Maybe you're not in a place to do something with it right now because you're still gathering information, you're still learning. It's still a great way just to harvest what nature's already given you in your backyard to support yourself as we're moving into and transitioning into that fall season. There is something so powerful about living intentionally. I think back to when my whole holistic journey started. It started from a place of desperation. I lived a very disconnected upbringing. Not that my parents did anything wrong, right? They just didn't know any better. And it wasn't until I was longing to start my own family that I realized that there was a big disconnect, that I had to start putting the pieces of the puzzle back together. I didn't realize that the food I consumed or the things I put on my body or the medicine that I was taking was having such a negative impact on my overall health. And it wasn't until I faced miscarriage after miscarriage and just desperately spending a year of my life trying to conceive, trying to start my family, that I realized the disconnect that had taken place in my life. And I went on this mad quest to just heal my body, become connected, and start a family. And so you guys, I went on a deep dive, and here I am over a decade later, sharing this video with you guys because I realized that everything is connected. What I put in my body impacts my health. What I do in my mind impacts my health. How I live intentionally with my family impacts my health. The food that I forage, the herbs that I forage, the herbs that I grow, right? So much of it is connected. And once I realized that, and I realized that I could support my mind, I could support my body, I could support my wellness with what I could grow out in my backyard, sky's the limit. And many of you guys have been on this journey with me ever since. And so if you are craving a more holistic approach to life, if you are craving a more connected, intentional lifestyle for whatever the reason, right? Maybe you just want longevity. Maybe you're longing to start a family. Maybe you want to support yourself and your family more naturally. Whatever that might look like for you, you can fill in that blank. I want to extend an invitation to you guys. My friend Kaylee over at the Honeystead, many of you guys might know her. We created this private community. It's called Willow Hive, and it is officially live next month, and we're really excited about it. But we came up with the wild method, and that's whole foods from scratch, intentional remedies and herbs, living rhythmically, and detoxing your home and your environment. And inside this private community, we walk through that wild method, and we connect with like-minded people. We have PDFs and training videos and monthly lives, and it's everything we we wish we had when we started. It's a friend willing to pull up a seat at the table and say, hey, you belong here, and I want to walk this path and this road with you. And so if you guys want to learn how you can become a founding member and kind of get early access to it, I'm going to put all the information down below, because we would love to connect with you guys. There's already so many people in there. It's just been so encouraging. It's been so encouraging just to connect in a way that actually matters. And so I just wanted to extend that invitation to you guys as well. If you're interested in that, we would love for you to join us over there. But I'm so curious, have you harvested goldenrod before? If you haven't, is it growing in your yard? Are you going to go harvest it and see? I'd love to hear from you guys. But as always, just thank you so much for being a part of our journey and a part of our story here on the farm. We couldn't do this without you, and so we appreciate you showing up every single week and supporting our family so that we can show up and just be here with you guys. So thanks so much, and we'll talk to y'all soon.